RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Iron Debate here on RX Muscle. My name is Sadiq Faruqi. I'm your host. We are going to make this a one-topic Iron Debate, and I'm going to be a little sensitive as I say this for our YouTube algorithm, but we are going to be talking about gear and whether or not gear is essentially killing today's bodybuilders. This is going to be an extension of our coverage of Dallas McCarver's autopsy. Now, there have been many of you who have told us to get off this story, to be respectful of Dallas and his family. And look, there is a sensitivity to this story. We understand that. We were the ones who broke this story. And before we did, Dave, myself, our producer then, Johnny Sauce, we had this discussion and said, look, we are going to handle the story with the absolute highest level of care and sensitivity to his family. So that is something that we have been, we have prioritized. But this is a bodybuilding channel, and this is an intricate part of the sport of bodybuilding. So it is a topic that we have to talk about, that we have to address. So with that, we go to Newport. Rather, we go first to our RX Muscle Cape Coral studios. Dave Palumbo. Dave, we're going to be introducing Phil in just a minute, but Phil's comments in his videos made over the course of the past week are the impetus for this episode.
Yeah, Phil Hernon, I saw made some interesting videos on his Facebook, as he always does, usually while he's driving the car, which is kind of a little scary in a sense, but he was very, aggressive about the fact that he felt that, at least the way I interpreted it, there was no such thing as a safe steroid, and that a lot of guys today are kind of deluding themselves. And I thought that, it was a rather extreme opinion, and I love extreme opinions, especially on Iron Debate, because it kind of fosters a lot of interesting ideas that go back and forth. And I said to myself, who, could we get on that could give an alternative angle on this? And I knew Lee Priest would definitely be one of those guys. So without further ado, I'd like to hear the debate. I'd like to see both sides of the story, and then I'd like to, give my opinion as well.
We first go out to Newport Richey, Florida. Welcome in Phil Hernon, making his debut on Iron Debate. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, and of course, we go out to Australia. No stranger to the show, Iron Debate. The man, the myth, the legend, Lee Priest joining us. Lee, what time is it there right now in Australia?
It's 8:30. How about 8 on Wednesday morning?
All right, very good. As always, we thank you for joining us. So again, that's the topic for today. So Phil, we're going to go to you first on this one because the impetus of this episode were your videos. Now, you released 2 videos on your Facebook page. If you haven't seen the videos, you can go to Facebook right now. Look up Phil Hernon, Hernon. I believe you have 2 videos related to this topic. The first one was a direct response to Dallas McCarver's autopsy report. And then later on, you did a video simply titled #dosages. Your stance. Let's start with the Dallas McCarver autopsy. High testosterone levels, your take.
My take on his testosterone level?
Or in general, your thoughts on it, the autopsy, what you took from it, so our audience who may not have seen the video
can know. I was kind of 26 years old that he would have thyroid cancer, arteriosclerosis, and a large liver and a large heart. I mean, I knew it could happen, but at 26 years old, I just remember him starting bodybuilding at 21, right? At the North American Championships. So we're talking 5 years. That's 60 months. 60 months for this to come to fruition, this effect on the human body to happen. So obviously 55,000, whatever, expedited it. But 5 years, Lee Priest and I have been working out bodybuilding for 30 years. I mean, this 5 years this kid did this to him. So it's quite shocking to me.
Phil, you seem to be cutting out towards the end there. I want you to expand a little bit. First of all, I wanted to make sure, can you talk to us? I want to make sure you have a clear connection.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better, much better. I want you to sort of reiterate what you're saying towards the end. You cut off a little bit there, but I want you to expand a little bit upon, what you said in those videos. I mean, again, you talked about the timeline of Dallas, the start of his career to now, and obviously, unfortunately, what took place. I want you to expand a little bit about what specifically you saw in that autopsy report and what you relayed in your video, again, which is why we're having this episode and having this conversation.
Yeah. I glanced at the autopsy report. I only read the first page. I saw thyroid cancer, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
I saw arterial sclerosis. I don't know how much blockage it was. I think it said moderate, correct?
It was extensive, I think.
An enlarged heart, was it 2 times or 3 times the size?
3 times.
Was it an enlarged liver, Dave? Was it a fatty liver?
Yep.
He had, didn't he have something going on with his brain too? I don't remember.
No.
But Phil, let's go into your theory behind those numbers, behind the causes, specifics.
Steroids. That's my theory on the testosterone level. Trenbolone. I mean, you can't get any tougher on the body than that, right? Is Trenbolone even a human steroid? I don't think so. I think it's for cattle, right? So he was obviously doing a high dosage. I mean, higher than anybody I think I've ever heard of in my entire life. But he looked the part. He looked like he was doing more than anybody I'd ever known. So I think at that point it becomes a case of where's my mental state? What's going to make me keep taking these high dosages and being bigger and bigger and bigger when guys like, Lee and Sean Ray can win at 210 pounds and be the best in the world? Why do I got to weigh 300 just to be one of the top guys? Is this my sport? Is this even a sport for me? Especially if you're dropping dead at 26. You know what I mean?
Lee, I want to go to you first. Phil, I want to bring Lee into this conversation because Lee, we since Dallas's autopsy report was released, we haven't directly gotten your thoughts. So first, if you could just give an initial reaction, your feedback on what you saw and your opinion.
Well, I was sort of shocked, as Phil said, with all the enlarged heart being 2 to 3 times size. Most athletes, no matter what sport they do have what's called athlete's heart, where just from normal training and stress, your heart will be a little bit bigger. And I went to the doctors yesterday, actually, and got all my test results back. And I think mine's like maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter on the left ventricle bigger than the normal person. So it's not like greatly huge. Yeah, like huge. So it's like, so to be 2, 3 times, like I said, I got tons of friends that abuse gear and they're still going. So, whether he had some predisposition to have all these problems and the steroids, just using that amount of steroids, just, super, almost like the steroids went more instead of went to the muscle, but every organ in his body as well, because, my liver's been fine. It was all checked out the other day. Kidneys were fine. Had the whole CT scans of my insides and everything like that, where they put the stuff through your blood so they can check all my organs, and mine are all fine. Pancreas is fine. Thyroid's fine. So my testosterone's always been naturally a little bit higher than normal, so it's nothing to worry about. But as it comes back to Phil said, even trend, most people are here to talk about trend, talk about they hate it, how it makes them feel, how it gets them aggressive and this sort of stuff. I could probably count on one hand how many times I've used trend my whole life in bodybuilding. Whenever I did courses, always small amounts, I stuck to the basics like they did in the old days, Deca, Diana Bowl. People always used to laugh when I used to tell them the amounts I took. Oh, you're lying. But, hey, I'm still here. I'm still healthy type thing. So, his whole abuse of steroids is, okay, we can say steroids made it come on. But, too, with all the problems he had, I think there must be, like, family history of problems, too. That's why in any sport, even bodybuilding, you really need to get shit checked out because, like I said, you could have a time bomb inside. And then if you go abusing steroids on top of that, you're just, it's a ticking time bomb waiting off. And that's why I said I get my blood done all the time. Now, sometimes I get it done monthly just to check on my liver and kidneys, just due to not taking gear, but just the amount of protein I eat and stuff like that and how I train. The only thing that's ever really been high on me is my CPK level, just from the creatine being broken down from when your muscle breaks down in the system. And just as long as I make sure I keep my fluids up and stuff with that, it keeps it at bay. But to the general person, that's higher on me than a normal person. I remember once when I got sick because I wasn't drinking enough fluid, the doctor said, levels this high I normally see on crash victims in cars just from the trauma to the muscle. But to us, just from training, we release the same thing into our bloodstream. So, all those things that he had done, of course, steroids are going to have a part of it, but also, too, there's got to be some family history there, like I said, where he could have been susceptible to these things and using large amounts of gear can bring it on. And like Phil said, why these guys are using these amounts of gear is beyond me, whether you get these stupid gurus that say you got to take this, you got to take that. To me, like, no one knows your body better than you. You know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. How these guys can go up to somebody like all these, like I said, gurus out there, and he's going to say, I want you to use this, take this amount. They just sit back down and go, how you feeling? How you looking? Is it working? Oh, that's good. Okay, maybe add a little more. Oh, that's not working. Drop this out. They're just experimenting with you. They don't know what the body's going to react to. And if they get it right, they say, okay, stick to that. It's like, it's just bullshit. You just got to work it out for yourself. It's trial and error. There's been tons of guys around like Arnold and them. Okay, he had a valve problem in his heart, which they said was genetic. But there's so many guys who have been around for years that have used mild amount of steroids, okay, you go get the thing, what's a safe amount? We're never going to know. It's like some people can smoke cigarettes and get cancer. Some can live to 90 smoking cigarettes. So you just got to, just keep your checkups and know what you're putting into your body. Like I said, don't be scared to go to your doctor and tell him, okay, I'm using this, using that, so they know what to look for. But I got friends here, like I said, they won't come off 12 months on, 10 years straight. They're scared of getting small. So like Phil said, it must be something in their brain where they think they've got to be bigger, But yet, it's just getting crazy now when you look at some of the physiques on stage. Yeah, we all hark back to the 90s and stuff like that, but some of those days were the best physiques around, and I think those physiques back then could stand up with any of the physiques today.
Well, Lee, let me just go back to you before I bring Dave in. We talk about dosages. In your experience, from the days of your competition days to now, and obviously, again, I hate to keep bringing back Dallas and his purported dosages into this conversation. Talk to us about the difference between then and now.
Like I said, I've never used insulin my whole life. I tried GH twice, once in 94 and 96, and maybe because I was still young in my, being 22, 24, I didn't notice anything from it. So I thought for the money, screw it out, I'll stick to Winstrol or Stanozol at the time. And like I said, when I used doses like testosterone or Sustanon 250, I take 2 mil, which is 500 milligrams a week. When I was using the Cypionate, I wouldn't go over 400. Once Trevor Smith from Nuclear Nutrition, he had it like, Lee, imagine if you use a bigger amount. So for a couple of weeks, I went up to 800 milligrams of test a week, and I actually felt shit. Like my strength felt crappy. I felt crappy inside. I went back to the smaller amount. I felt healthier again. Went back to training. My weights were a lot better than they were when I was on the higher amount. So to me, I've never had that mentality where, okay, I know I've got to use them in the sport to help recover and get into a certain shape for contest, but I've never had that mindset where if I'm not on them, I can't do this. If I'm not on gear, I can't train hard. Some of my best lifts is when I was off the gear, but now we've got young kids where they'll go to the gym and train now. They're not eating right. They're not sleeping right. So they think, I'm not getting anywhere. Suddenly they go on a course of gear. Their training becomes more frequent. Their eating becomes more frequent. They're like, wow, I put muscle, I put size on. If they just train more frequently and ate better, they'd put on good size and their strength would go up anyway because they're on the gear now to think, mentally I'm on this gear. Like I said, and someone gives them a cycle of 1,000 of this. I was in England, some guys were taking 5,000 a week. So if that's their very first cycle of a couple thousand, the next cycle they think, I've got to do more this time. I've got to keep increasing. So that's why I said I told half these people before, people like Boston, Lloyd and them, I said, if they went clean for 6 months, 12 months, then start a cycle on a small amount, eat properly, train, don't go out and party, you're going to make the same results. So, it's just crazy the amounts. And then, like I said, half these guys I talk to who even tell me, Lee, I've heard you use this. I'm like, well, I'm the guy that's fucking taken it. I know what I've used. It's like, I read online. It's like, I don't care what you've read online. So many people are like, I can tell people when I do my seminars, I say, I've taken 400 a test. I've taken this. Oh, you're fucking lying. You pros lie. I'm like, why would I lie? I said, I'm telling you the truth. I said, if you're going to do it, I want you to do it safely. But they'll call me a liar, but they'll believe some no-face guy on the internet who's telling them to take thousands of milligrams. So I don't get it. It's just crazy the way it's going now.
Dave, I want to bring you in this. First, I want you to sort of reintroduce the conversation because this is a point that you brought up and it has drawn some controversy. You brought up sort of the genetic component for Dallas McCarver and his family history and what he was prone to and how that made him more vulnerable, especially as a competitive bodybuilder. I want you to talk about that, and then I want you to transition to the next part of our conversation, and that is sort of the over-reliance on gear that both Lee and Phil have touched on.
I think that you can't neglect the gear usage, obviously, but I do think that Dallas had a definite family predisposition to coronary artery disease. That's pretty apparent because no one in 26 years old has a major blockage in their main coronary artery. I mean, you just don't see that. I mean, that's heart disease that runs in the family, man. Obviously,
Dave,
eating.
Can I ask you a question, Dave?
Yes.
Who in his family had heart disease?
I don't know. I was told that.
I don't think anybody in his family had heart disease. I know that everybody if they live long enough, will probably have some kind of heart disease. Like my grandparents passed away at.
We have Phil cutting out. So, Dave, I want you to continue, but again, under the premise that Dallas was prone to these genetic conditions. Let's go on that premise because, again, that is what we've heard. So I do want to be respectful of Dallas's disposition, leading up to his demise.
Yeah, I think what Dallas went wrong was not in the sense, I really believe that it was a genetic, like Lee said, a genetic time bomb. I've used the same term. And I think that you put a lot of food, a lot of steroids onto the mix, and it speeds up and it makes the situation worse. It's like a guy who has a heart arrhythmia who goes out and tries to run a marathon. I mean, he's going to drop dead. He doesn't know he has an arrhythmia. He goes out, pushes himself too hard, throws a bad rhythm, and goes to, ATAC or VTAC and dies. How could he possibly know that he had that? He didn't. Now, Dallas had some warning signs, and I think where Dallas went wrong was he didn't follow up, with the cardiologist when he had some problems out that Australia Arnold that he had some problems on stage with, and I think that was his warning from above. That was the guy above winking at him and saying, "Yeah, you better get checked out." And I think, he's a typical bodybuilder. I was in the same boat. You just want to deny. You don't want to think there's anything wrong with you. You don't want to hear the doctor give you the speech about you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And that's unfortunate. I'm really against naivete or just putting your head in the sand. I think that it's important that everyone gets checked out. I didn't do it enough while I was competing. Luckily, I didn't harm myself. But the dosages that guys are using today are just astronomical. We get Phil back here. I wanted to ask him about what was the most.
I'm here.
Oh, you are.
I'm here, Dave.
Phil, when you competed, what was the most gear you ever took?
Well, I remember my cycle plain as day because I was scared to wake up in the morning. And I did it for every show, by the way. I did this for every single show. But I didn't know any better because, Dave, we didn't have the internet back then. All I knew were my friends in the gym that told me what to do. You know what I mean? I took 1,500 milligrams of test a week. I took 50 milligrams of Winstrol every other day. I took something called Den from Mexico.
Right.
I took a vial every other day. And then I remember taking, for the USA, I took 5 IUs of HGH and 5 IUs of insulin for the show.
Right. Is that when you won the USA in '95?
Yeah, and I did the same thing for both my pro shows, too.
Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Well, not that great for the pro shows. For the USA. I forgot to diet.
Lee forgot to diet a few times, too.
I didn't have a guru back then.
Yeah.
Dave, I wanted to go back to Phil because, again, this is something that he mentioned in his video. And this, again, sort of one of the central points to this entire conversation. Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as if your assertion is that gear seemingly in any amounts is essentially going to, lead to this path of destruction.
I don't think that. I wouldn't say in any amounts. No.
Okay. What would you say is a baseline amount where it gets dangerous?
A lot of guys are on TRT, and that's gear, and that's an amount, right? So that's healthy. I mean, you could have some cardiovascular issues if your testosterone level gets too low. So there's a range there, and I don't know what that range is, and I think everybody genetically is different. Like there's a lot of predispositions out there, like Lee said. But how do you know? I mean, are you going to just play Russian roulette with the dosages and say whoever, like I used to do? I used to just say, look, I don't care if I die. I got a show in 6 weeks. That's how I was. I don't care if I die. I got to look good.
So again, as Phil is cutting out, Lee, I'm going to go to you on this one because, again, it seems as if the assertion is that for a competitive...
Sorry.
Yeah, Phil, I'm going to ask you this question point blank. So, again, I'm going to rephrase it in a manner which the dosages for a competitive bodybuilder, right? Not somebody who's doing it for any sort of life extension, any sort of like health purposes. Somebody who's doing it in the environment of a competitive bodybuilder. Your response is what to that? Can that be done in a safe manner, or do you think that invariably is going to lead to a dangerous road?
There's two parts. If I'm hearing you right, because you're breaking up, there's two parts to that question. I don't know the answer, and I don't want to pretend to know, right? And secondly, can anybody name me a good reason to ever take anabolic steroids? Can I hear a good reason to take it from anybody? A legitimately sound, well thought out reason to start taking it. Because the reason people take it is because another guy's better. The number one guy in the world doesn't need to figure out how to beat the other guy because he's winning. The guy who needs to start taking stuff, I'm not going to say cheating, but to add hormones to their bodies, I want to look like that guy. If that's the only reason you take it, I understand it. But that's not a good reason.
Well, it's a good, but Phil, it's a good reason if you want to be a professional bodybuilder. I mean, let's face it. If you're competing on a stage with guys where they're judging the most muscle, the best conditioning, I mean, you have to take them. And I believe there is a responsible way to do it, and you seem to think there isn't.
Well, what is a professional bodybuilder? It's the guy that takes a lot of steroids, right? Is that really a legal sport? Is that something legally we can do in this country?
You can do whatever you want. It's how you look. Can you take plastic surgery? Is that legal? Actors have plastic surgery all the time.
Don't you see that's a mental illness? That's an insecurity because I can't look like that guy, so I'm going to take a bunch of drugs and kill myself early, and I don't care if I die because I want to look like that guy because then I'll have some respect. Then people will love me. People will like me better, or I'll be famous. That's what this is all about. If they really want to be a win at bodybuilding, let's go drug-free and see who wins at bodybuilding.
Right, but
okay. I want to go to Lee on this one because again, it's a life choice. Last night, if you were watching the Monday Night Football game, Ryan Chase here, the Pittsburgh Steelers started off. And again, it's a choice. It's a choice to play football. It's a choice to get into bodybuilding. So, again, you're asking the question. Lee, I want to go to you on this one because again, Bill asked the question straight out.
I'm paying for your health insurance because you guys can't even afford health insurance and you're buying all these cycles. And then when you guys want a kidney transplant or a liver, I got to pay for it.
Yeah, but Phil, you can make the same argument about somebody that eats donuts 5 times a day or anybody that's going to have.
Yeah, so why don't you recognize what you're doing?
Lee, I want to come back into this conversation again. Do you have an answer for Phil when he asks if there is any good reason for a competitive bodybuilder to take gear in the sense of, competing to win or competing to look big?
Well, like I said, it's never going to be a good reason, but it's like, okay, when I was in Australia and I competed, I won all my shows clean. And I had good genetics, so I could win shows clean, won the Mr. Australia clean. But then once I received the pro card set, I'm thinking, okay, I've got these great genetics. I'm going to be competing with all these other guys with great genetics, but these other guys are on the gear, so sadly for me to keep up with them, I'm going to have to go on the gear as well. If it was drug, I've always said I'd love for shows to be drug tested, properly drug tested, and then we'd see who the guys with the best genetics are. But sadly, of course, they don't drug test. For you to keep up with them, it's like any sport. There's probably a lot of great runners, and no matter what drug you take, you're not going to be a great runner unless you've got the genetics. And bodybuilding, like I said, the cream of the crop's always going to rise to the top with the best genetic potential. But sadly, like I said, to me, when I see guys in the gym who don't compete, who just want to walk around and go out drinking with their buddies and have a big arm hanging out of their shirt, I've always said those guys are fucking idiots. If you don't need to take gear, you don't need to take gear. Because like I said, you can get a guy, take him to a gym, put him on a good diet, get him training with weights. He can get a nice physique, he can get abs, he can get the nice shaped arms and shit, but you're not going to get freaky. You're not going to get freaky if you've got the genetics to begin with. But sadly, the mentality of people now is they think if they can take gear, due to the media too, because the media always hypes up that these champions are all on gear. Barry Bonds hit this many home runs because he was on gear. Mark McGuire. Well, fuck, I've taken all those drugs. I can't hit home runs like McGuire, so it ain't the drugs. So, but yet young kids see the media doing this. If you look at all these champions taking steroids, they think, well, if I want to be a champion, I'll take steroids. But to me, if you're not really, like I said, okay, sadly, pro bodybuilders will take it because that's the way they got to make a living. They want to keep their sponsorships, so they've got to be pushed that way because it's not, okay, in the rule books it says about the doping and stuff like that in the handbook, and all that's just given out when they say, you know, steroids should be tested for, but yet they don't follow through with that. There is no random testing done throughout the year and stuff like that. So it's like, could you imagine if they turned up at a pro show and said, we're going to drug test you right now backstage? No one's going to pass the drug test. So, you know, you're either going to, so it's just one of those things that, you know, if they're going to drug test randomly, drug test throughout the year, drug test backstage. They did it one year at the Olympia, but at the Olympia they didn't test for steroids. What they tested for was stuff like clenbuterol, diuretics and stuff like that, which also can cause problems. And it did in the day, people were taking too many diuretics and stuff. So it's one of those things. If you're going to test for it, make the sport safer. Have, you know, you see all these other pro sports, they actually have team doctors. You know, bodybuilding should have team doctors where, you know, get a proper sports doctor where bodybuilders can actually go to and say, listen, this is what I'm using, this is what I'm on, and have that doctor who specialises in the human body and steroids, so he knows if this level's high, he knows what's causing that. You know, you go to a random doctor sometimes, your general physician, when he sees a bodybuilder's test results, you could be feeling fine, but he's going to think you're ready to go into heart attack mode, your kidneys are going to fail, your liver's going to pack it in, just because to the average person, you're so way off the chart and you might not even be using anything. You could just be on high protein, training your ass off. So the general doctor sometimes, they don't even know what to look for or what they're going on about. So you really got to find a good sports doctor who somewhat understands training and how training affects the body, and then incorporate steroids on top of that, how and what to look for. So sadly, like I said, the general GP these days will just think you're a walking time bomb just if you saw, oh shit, your liver enzymes might be 100 times over the normal person, but yet that might not be bad, but to the normal person, he's looking at you going, oh boy, you've got big problems. So.
Dave, I want to bring you back in again. Yeah. We are talking about competitive bodybuilding. This is a different world than somebody who wants to just look good, go to the gym, so on and so forth. Again, Phil's contention is that you don't need to be taking gear in general. I mean, again, the idea is that we understood there are risks associated with professional bodybuilding, just like there are playing a competitive football or any other contact sport. You have long said, and I've remembered from various shows, that taking gear, putting anything in your body is an adult decision, that an athlete knows what they're getting themselves into when competing. But as Lee said, you know, winning at a certain level, he didn't have to take anything. But when you get to an elevated level, there is the element of keeping up with the Joneses. Your take on that?
Well, you know, I've said it before. You know, I'm not look, I'm for health. Okay, so, but I think that bodybuilding can be done in a healthy way, and that's why I had suggested innumerable times over the last year and 5 years past that I think that the IFBB should have mandatory health screening. In other words, you have to go to your doctor once a year and get cleared, so that you get these tests done, so that you know if you're a walking time bomb or not. If you know if you're not healthy and you shouldn't be getting on stage and taking steroids. So I think they can be taken, and if people knew they had to pass a health screening every year, they wouldn't be taking massive crazy dosages because they know they wouldn't pass the screening. So I think that if we have to, I don't think drug testing is the answer, because we know that people can find ways around the testing, and we know that bodybuilders will always use steroids, just like all other athletes do, but there's a healthy way to use them and there's an unhealthy way to use them. And I don't think you should say no one should use them. I just think that that's ridiculous. Just like you can't say, look, no one should eat fast food. We know it's not good for your heart, okay? But people like the taste of it and they're going to eat it. And you know, if you eat it once in a while or once a week, it's probably not that bad for you. If you have it every day, obviously you're going to be probably a fat slob with heart disease. So there is a safe way to do that. Likewise, if a woman goes to the plastic surgeon and wants to get breast implants, it's probably not the healthiest thing to do, be putting, you know, silicone bags under your skin. Let's face it. I mean, but if it's a personal choice that she wants to make and she wants to have big boobs, then that's fine. But obviously there is a safe way to do them. That's why, you know, women don't go to, you know, back alleys and get them done. They go to plastic surgeons, board certified, and get them done. So there needs to be a health screening aspect of bodybuilding that I think is not in place. And, you know, especially after something happens, if you pass out on stage, you should have to go to the doctor and get clearance from the doctor to get back in the gym, so to speak, and get back, you know, with, you know, back to what I guess you could say, renew your pro card or however you want to do it. So I think that what we should be advocating for here is health screening, not banning stuff, but health screening, so that we know the people are healthy. So whatever they're doing in the right way, and we're monitoring this on a yearly basis at least, to make sure our athletes don't drop dead spontaneously because of what they're doing. Obviously, guys who don't compete, we have no control over those people. They're going to do whatever they want anyway. It's like the guys, jumping off, the top deck of their house into a swimming pool, who break their necks because the pool isn't deep enough or they hit the ledge. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. People are going to do kooky stuff anyway. But in a professional sport, I think that health screening would go a long way.
Dave, let me expand a little bit, because I want to bring Phil back in just to talk about health screening. Expand a little bit upon that. And the reason I ask is because what kind of health screening would you have? What kind of doctors would you have conducting these health screening? The reason I ask is because, again, bringing up the example of football, there's concussion protocol. There are doctors that are specifically chosen who understand football, who have been around football. Is that the kind of thing you would advocate here? Doctors that are very familiar with the sport of bodybuilding. You couldn't just bring another doctor and say, all right, hey, check this out, because any doctor off the street is going to say, hey, these levels are way off the charts. They're not accustomed to seeing that kind of a condition out of a normal human being. Obviously, bodybuilders have a different makeup, different profile. Expand upon the idea a little bit, and I'm going to bring Phil back in on this as well.
Here's the idea. It's very simple. The IFBB has a panel of doctors, cardiologists, GI doctors. Okay, if you want to have neurologists in there to mentally evaluate people too, that's fine. And you go to your doctor, you get a certain battery of blood tests done. You go to your cardiologist, you get an echocardiogram, a cardiac CT, an EKG. You get, if you need, if the blood work is clear, you're good. Okay, and that's going to be cleared by the resident GI doctor on the staff at the IFBB. He's going to look at the blood work. If something's unusual, they may have to send you for an ultrasound, a liver ultrasound, or a kidney sonogram if they want to check out and see how that is. If that's cleared, then you're good. And then you have your cardiologist who looks at the results of the cardiac CT, the EKG, and the echocardiogram. If they sign off on it, then great, you're cleared and you can compete for the calendar year. The following year, you go through the same thing. And this way, the IFBB has their team, their battery of doctors who know bodybuilders, who know what to look for, what's normal, what's not in a bodybuilder and an elite athlete, and they're going to clear you, not your local doctor who's your buddy at the gym who's going to write off and sign a paper saying you're fine. You got to take the test, submit them to their doctors, and their doctors will clear you. That's how it works in sports. So in all team sports. So I think that would be a very easy way to do it. You could use your own insurance. You don't have to worry about anything. And you know what? It would make people go out and get insurance because they would need to get this yearly screening. Every bodybuilder should have health insurance. Anyone who walks around without insurance in this day and age is out of their freaking minds, because anything can happen to you at any time, especially when you're lifting maximum weights in the gym.
I'm going to play devil's advocate before I bring Phil in. Despite all of that, you're still going to have bodybuilders given the mentality they're just going to say, you know what, screw it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm getting myself into. If I die, I die. Phil, your thoughts on what Dave just suggested as far as health screening and the parameters under which competitors would be screened?
I think Dave has a good idea, but what would the diagnosis be that I'm a professional bodybuilder? My insurance won't cover all those battery of tests just because I'm a pro bodybuilder, just because I take steroids. They won't do it. An EKG wouldn't have picked up on Dallas's heart issues, would it have?
Cardiac CT would.
Yeah, but what would the diagnosis be to have it? Because it's 300 pounds from steroids?
Yeah. When you look at the guy, he looks like he's a cardiac risk. We got to check him out.
But then they'll never let him compete.
Well, yeah,
they would never. If he's 300 pounds because of steroids and his BMI is that high, he would never get clearance.
Well, he'd get clearance if his heart was healthy and he had his blood pressure was normal and everything else was checked out. Just because you're a big guy doesn't mean you can't be healthy.
But if his blood pressure was normal and they're not looking at the fatty liver and all the other issues, the kidney, the thyroid cancer, they're going to miss all that stuff. But
they're not going to miss it because they're going to do an echocardiogram. They're going to see his heart is 3 times the normal size. They're going to say something's going on here. We better do a cardiac CT to see if this guy has cleared coronary arteries. He passed out on stage. He obviously had trouble breathing.
What would the criteria be? Moderate arteriosclerosis or severe? I mean, what Well, I know a guy with 100% blockage. The doctor said, keep going because you've already grown veins and arteries around it to support that blockage.
Right.
Your heart protected itself. You know what I mean? You can keep going if you want. That's not going to kill you, but you're 100% blocked. So I'm really, you know, there's a lot to it. I just don't know if the insurance would cover all that stuff. It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Maybe it's on the onus of the athlete to clear themselves. If you want to be a professional bodybuilder, you got to get the test done.
But I think that's just a natural thing for you to do anyway without telling me to do it. I should get a checkup.
But you know people won't do that unless you make them. You got to make them do it.
These guys aren't doing that because they think they know what's going on in their bodies. They don't know the risks. Do you think Dallas McCarver knew the risks? And for the last 3 years, he said, I know the risks. He does not know the risks. No one knows the risks. But that's just the way it goes.
No, they know them. They just don't want to accept the risks because they want to believe that they're not going to.
That's what I would.
Well, I don't think he knew he was going to die at 26 years old. I mean, you know, he probably thought he'll die at 40. You know what I mean?
Here's my question to you, Phil. Given what you know now about steroids and about health ramifications of the bodybuilding lifestyle, would you do it all again?
I would do it without taking drugs because there's no need to. But
do you believe that, Lee?
What is a bodybuilder? We have to define what bodybuilding is. What is it? Is it drug taking? Is it dieting and training? Or what is it? I mean, I know for a fact Lee Priest would be Mr. Olympia if everybody's drug tested. I know for a fact because I believe everything he says, and I've seen his physique. So that's the real Mr. Olympia to me. Okay, Sean Ray's the same way.
Don't let Phil Heath say that. You'll be in trouble.
Well, Phil Heath might come in second, right?
Lee, let me get you in on this because again, we have a lot of layers to unravel here. One, your thoughts on what Dave just suggested as far as the health screening and the parameters. Two, in your competition days, let's just say it was an optional thing. Would you have done it? And then three, given what you know now about competitive bodybuilders from your era and today's era, even if it was out there was a whole structure for it, do you think competitors would even go for it, or they know what the inherent risks are when they enter this level of competition?
Well, it's hard. With the screening, I think it's a great idea, screening, but even Dave says 12 months, I'd go probably every 6 months because you've got a lot of guys that will do the shows in the beginning of the year, bombard their bodies with drugs, say from February till the middle of the year, then they'll come off them a bit and go on another big cycle for the Olympia. So you'd have to check your body probably twice a year just to see what's happening, not just once a year, because you might fuck it up in the first 6 months. So I'm fine, I'm going to get ready for Olympia, go back on a whole lot of shit again and, drop dead. So, and, it's one of those things too, sometimes getting health insurance. I know when I was in America, I went for health insurance. I had to lie about my bloody body weight because for my height, if I put down I'm 135 kilos at 5'5", they're going to put me down as morbidly obese and not going to get health insurance. So I had to put down that I was like, 76 kilos, 75 kilos to get health insurance. So some of these guys, if they go for health insurance, they put down their height and body weight. A lot of them aren't going to get it. They're going to be crossed off the list. They're going to be like, you're a risk factor. We're not going to insure you because we're going to be paying out big bucks because something's definitely going to go wrong. So that's another thing you got to look at with the aspect there too. So that's one of those things. And if they did. I know a lot of guys, like I said, I always, even if they didn't bring it in, since I can remember when I was in America, 12 months, 6 months, I always had my blood done, always had my stuff checked up. I was just naturally done that just pretty much my whole life. So to me, I find it weird where I've got friends here, like I said, they go on cycles all year round. And I ask them, do you get checked? Oh, no. What I don't know can't hurt me, which is a stupid thing to have. And then you get the ones I say, look, you're going to die. At least I'll die big. They've got just that stupid mentality where they want to be big no matter what. They don't care if they drop dead. So to me, I just find sometimes it's not the physical. Sometimes, like Phil said, the psychological, the way they think is the problem with some of these guys. I've got a friend that when he says he's going to diet, he starts dieting down. As soon as his T-shirt gets loose on his arms, boom, he's back up eating calories, McDonald's, drinking full cream milk because he can't handle his T-shirt getting loose. So there is a psychological aspect there too to a lot of these guys where, to me, I couldn't care less. As long as I'm healthy, I don't care how I look. If someone said, hey, Lee, you used to look good, you had big arms, I don't care. It's like, as long as I'm still breathing and enjoying life with friends and family and having a good time, I'm happy. So to me, like I said, the most I ever paid for like a cycle when I got ready for a show, like the Ironman, the Arnold, the San Francisco, was probably $1,800. To me, it was like, in the beginning I did the winds trial every second day, but then I went every third day. than every fourth day, because I was reading on the bottle, like I said before, where if a horse that's needs 2 mil per 100 kilos every 2 weeks, I'm thinking, well, why the fuck do I need a mil or two every second day? I said, I'm not the size of a horse. So to me, common sense come into play with me. So I was just like, and there's anything that where anyone said to me, like, Lee, you need a shot every other day. I'm like, fuck that. I'm 1 shot a week type of guy. So I'll have a shot Friday. I don't have to worry about it till next Friday again. So I took stuff like the Deca, Dianabol, maybe an Apollon, Enadrol type stuff. So it's just like things like that. And I'll be on something for maybe 4 weeks. And after 4 weeks, I'd come off it. And all my gear combined, I think the most I went up to was probably, I was still under 2,000. That's if I added the test, the Dianabol, and everything together for the whole cycle. I wouldn't be over 2,000 milligrams a week on everything combined. So as I said, I've always just done it smart. I've never listened to other people. I've never read the steroid handbook Bible. I knew what worked for me. When I trained at World Gym, I talked to Tom Platz and all these older guys, and they're pretty much the same. They'll just stick to the basics, smaller amounts, and those guys are still going today. They're still training. They're still healthy. So it's like, it's just one of those things. Sadly, the internet is a great thing, but now, like I said, you've got so many douchebags on the internet giving out these false cycles. I don't know how many cycles I've read about me, read about Dorian. This is Dorian's cycle. This is what Dorian did. This is what such and such did. And sadly, young kids see that. And to me, in the old days, it was, you did foundation work. You went to the gym for years and years and years and trained your ass off. And then, obviously, if you started competing and did well and got to the next level, okay, you'd think about using a bit of gear. Sadly, now, guys are taking gear before they even join the gym. Some kids are just taking gear to go to these music raves, to walk around high school looking big. They're not even going into the gym. They're just taking gear for those reasons. And it's just that thing, it's just society. People, talk about women. Women always want to look good with anorexia, worry about their bodies. I think some of the males are getting worse than the women. They want to all look like having the abs and having the arms and all this sort of stuff. And sadly, they could do it just from normal training and eating correctly, but sadly, they want a quick way. They want it overnight, and they're thinking steroids are going to do that. And I'm sure Phil, Dave, everyone knows guys that we've seen in the gym year after year after year and have abused steroids. And if you looked at them, you wouldn't even know they went to the gym. So, like, you're going to have some sort of genetic potential to begin with. You're not going to build muscle no matter how many steroids you take. You can't turn, shit into gold. Simple as that. So
I'm going to bring up one last point, and I want each and every one of you to have an opinion on it. Again, a couple of weeks ago, we had a live with episode. We had Amin Alai, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist. And I remember the point that him and Dave discussed specifically, and that is exactly what, Lee, you were just saying now, in the sense that a lot of kids today, they watch these videos on YouTube. There's a lot of irresponsible material right now on social media, and that they just ingest it. We live in a reality right now. It's a society of extremes. Everyone wants to be bigger, bolder, faster, stronger, more this, more that. There seems to be no in between. But Amin Alai made that point that, again, kids are now dependent. He used the word supersede, that the gear usage seems to supersede diet and training. So, again, I'm going to go to each and every one of you on this. The point is, in today's society, be it as a competitive bodybuilder or somebody, a kid, wanting to look big, want to look extreme, seeing things on social media, is there, in your opinion, a responsible and safe way to get bigger using gear that maybe kids, maybe competitors should look into? Phil, let's go to you on this one first.
I would say, and I hate to say this, but what about SARMs and peptides? I know they're not, quote, legal, but they're way safer than anabolic steroids. And they work well. You can get huge on SARMs and peptides. And that's way safer than, megadosing.
Lee, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything you would have done differently? And second, what would you tell today's competitive bodybuilders in terms of what you would suggest being safe and responsible in terms of your usage?
Me, as I said, because I've always kept my usage low, there's nothing I would really change, even though I read all the amount of growth hormone I've taken over the years. Dickheads, I'm still fucking 5'5". If I use that much growth hormone, I should be 6 foot. Yeah, but the thing is, it's like Phil said, there's so many peptides out there now that, if they were around back in the day, I probably would have tried them out first. So, if these are things that are safer, try them first before you go to the steroid thing. But to me, what I tell people now who come into the bodybuilding or just want to train is you really got to be in touch with reality. That's the main thing, because I've got friends that play basketball on weekends. I can't because I'm never any good at it. But I've got friends that play golf for fun on weekends. And they go do it for fun. They do it with their mates. They do it during the week and they have fun doing it. But they don't walk around saying, I'm going to be fucking Tiger Woods, or friends that play basketball. They don't walk around saying, I'm going to be fucking Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant or something like that. But yet, for some reason, every fuckwit that goes into a gym thinks he can be Mr. fucking Olympia. I don't know why. It's like, why can't you just go into a gym, have fun training, don't use the steroids, build a nice physique, train, have fun with your buddies, but don't go into a gym, because like I said, nearly every guy that knows that trains thinks they can build muscle, become big and be a pro bodybuilder. If I took what you were taking, I could look like you. If I did, no, you can't, dickhead. You look like shit. It's like, if I stop training and get AIDS, I can fucking look like you, though. So it's like, just shut the fuck up and just do the best you can. But I don't know what the mentality is of people that go into gyms. They all think they can be a pro bodybuilder. It's like, I can go play basketball for fun, but like I said, I'm never going to be Michael Jordan, am I? So it's like, it's just stupid. But every other sport, I got friends that do every other sport, and they have fun doing it. They do it weekend casually. But like I said, every guy I know that walk into a gym, Helen Keller could read their fucking back. It's like Braille with all the fucking acne. It's like War and Peace in the middle of their back. It's like, that's just fucking stupid. So I don't know what it is. I think bodybuilders and the mentality of people that get into the sport really need their fucking heads checked, some of them, because like I said, I get a lot of time. If I started when you started, if I took what you were taking, I could look like you. And that's coming from a black guy. Like, what, you're going to be short and wide if you took what I'm taking? You look pretty funny then, won't you? So, I don't know. It's just like, there's people, like I said, you just got to be smart, enjoy it. But the main thing is, like I said, just be, like I said, do what you can do. But with the whole thing, like, everyone that says going to be a pro bodybuilder, I've always said to kids, if you do go start training and eat correctly, and if you got the genetics and you're resting, you're getting all the good food in. I said, if you're just your genetic potential alone, you'll build a physique where bodybuilding is what you can become or what you can do. I said, shoving all the drugs in, you're going to have the genetics, you ain't going to become nothing still. You might get puffy, watery, you blow up when you're on the gear, then you go back down when you're off the gear and stuff like that. But there's so many guys in the gym that I see doing that, but their thing is, well, Lee's bigger than me because he's taken more than me. No, you've used more than I've ever touched. So it's like, that's the silly thing. That's the whole mentality. I said, internet has a lot to do with that too. But, but you said, you just got to be, comes down to, like I said, people being secure with yourself. You just got to be like, yeah, it is the best I can do. That's the best I can do. But at least I'm healthy doing it, having fun doing it. But like I said, you can go to any gym and pretty much 80% of the guys in there will think, if I took drugs, I could look like you or I could be Mr. Olympia. It's like, no, you can't. But yet they don't want to hear that. So it's like, they think there's they still get it today. What's the secret? What's the secret? There is no secret. It's hard work. Busting your ass, making sacrifices. Yes, I used to know sometimes the small amount I took, I used to sometimes think, shit, just sometimes I get a little infection from windstroll. I think, oh, fuck, the arm starts getting sore. You get the red mark down your arm, a little bit of blood poisoning or something, so you've got to go on antibiotics. You think, no, so sometimes you think to myself, fuck, is this really worth it some days? And it's just some of those crazy things you do. But like Dave said, every extreme sport's going to have problems, whether it's rock climbing, water skiing, car racing, but, it's just our body's on the line. But yet, when there is an accident, like say car racing, for instance, when I used to drag race and stuff, if someone is killed, they go back, they look at the car and how can we make the car safer? We can add more to the roll cage, we can add more to this, we can change this thing, we can cut the horsepower down a bit by changing the fuel. So in every other sport, generally, when something bad does happen, changes are made. So with bodybuilding, I think there should be changes made. And the other thing I find with bodybuilding too is when other sports, when somebody does pass away sadly, people normally say condolences, and that for some reason bodybuilding has so many haters. I don't get that. It's like, if you don't like bodybuilding, don't follow the sport. But yet, when Dallas passed away, when Rich Piana passed away, the negativity that I saw people saying, people say, well, would you say it to their face? Well, sadly, you can't because they're dead, but would you go say it to their friends or their family? No, you wouldn't. So if you hate bodybuilding that much, when they say, oh, you all take steroids, you all do this, you all look like that. Like I said, I don't like golf. But when Tiger Woods got caught out, I don't go on the website of golf saying, hey, Tiger Woods, you dickhead, fucking around with all these women, blah, blah. It's like, I wouldn't have the time. It's like, I don't have time to do that shit. So if you're so anti-bodybuilding and anti-steroids and that, don't join up a bodybuilding forum or follow bodybuilders online. I just don't get that mentality. Maybe they're sitting behind a computer, dick in one hand, lube in the other. They've got the voice-activated thing on so they can type while they're jacking off. It's like they might just like looking at muscly men on the computer, but yet they get off abusing us. So, hopefully they'll get the semen on the keyboard and electrocute himself, but who knows? That's my rant. That's my rant going on.
Dave Palumbo, final word. You have, for the last 25 years, been in this sport as a competitor, and now really the latter part of your career as a coach, as somebody who's really made an educational aspect so prevalent now in the bodybuilding community. Talk to us as a final word. If somebody comes to you and says, Dave, I want to compete, I want to be the best that I can, but I want to do so in a safe and responsible manner, your message is what?
I help people all the time who come to me with that message, and a lot of people, are not the people that I need to work with because they don't want to do things responsibly or in a safer way. They want to take the shortcut. Let's face it, we live in a society, and I hate to sound like my dad or something like that, but we live in a society of instant gratification. No one wants to work hard for anything anymore. They want everything handed to them. I mean, look at how many people don't have jobs and they want the government to support them. And, I'm not going to go on a political rant, but that's we have a society of entitlement where all these parents, of the new generation, make the kids believe that everything should just be given to them. No one has to work hard for anything. And I think that steroids are just an extension of that feeling. Like, hey, I want a physique. Well, I don't want to go to the gym and train hard and have to eat 6 times a day and sacrifice and not go out with my friends and drink alcohol. I'll just take steroids because I can get that and it's easier that way. And we all know that that's not the way to be a bodybuilding champion. Bodybuilding champions are the guys who sacrifice everything. They live the lifestyle, they immerse themselves in the diet, the training, the rest, the recuperation, the knowledge, learning about what's going on, how your body works, how it responds. To me, I was more excited about bodybuilding before I ever took a drug because I love the whole process of it. I love to see my body change, the food, the training. And then I hit a point, where I just couldn't improve anymore. And that's when I made a personal decision at 22 years old that I was going to try anabolic steroids, because I was competing and I wanted to be better. And I think that's the right time to do it. And I think that it needs to be done responsibly. And I made mistakes along the way, probably did. But luckily, back in the 90s when I was doing it, really guys weren't using the excessive dosages they were today. So in essence, I kind of saved myself, luckily. But I think now with the internet and with the advent of people able to watch shows like this should be resonating with people, what we're saying. They should be saying, you know what, these guys are making sense. Yes, we know that guys are going to use steroids and growth hormone and insulin and all that stuff, but there is a right and responsible way to do it. And rather than listening to these gurus that really don't know anything about science, who are just out there throwing out these crazy, ridiculous cycles, maybe I'll listen to the guys that know what they're talking about, the science guys, the guys like who teach about this stuff, guys like Dave Palumbo, guys like Lee Priest who are speaking in moderation from experience, guys who put their heart and soul into the sport but didn't rely on steroids as the way to get big, but as just another tool in their tool chest. Because that's what it is. But at the end of the day, I still believe there needs to be health screening for the top level bodybuilders, because if they're screened and the kids see that these bodybuilders go to the doctor every year and they get screened and they release their results, what's going on, and that they, hey, look, the doctor's cleared me. Now it's going to make that cool. And when that makes it cool, the younger guys are going to go get screened, and they're going to do what the pros do, their heroes do. And that's going to be the way to clean up our sport. Like Lee said, when tragedy strikes in other sports, they do things to make it better, to correct what happened so it doesn't happen again. As bodybuilders, the onus is on us to make our sport safer and better, and there can be a way to responsibly use the performance-enhancing drugs, the supplements, and all the food we eat in a healthy way, but it's got to be monitored. And that's really the final word.
With that,
or if you can't find a doctor, find a good veterinarian.
On that note, that's going to do for this episode of Iron Debate. Special thanks to Phil Hernon coming on the show, presenting an opinion that, again, may not have been the most popular amongst our audience, but that's what the show is all about. We like different viewpoints. We like bold viewpoints. And, of course, Lee Priest bringing it as always. For Phil, for Lee Priest, for Dave Palumbo, and our producer, Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.
You guys, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.